Hi, welcome to Longbox Diving, where we pull comics out of the long box. So I'm using Streamlabs to record, which is interesting because it's meant for live streaming, and it's built with a ton of features in order to help live streaming. One of which is really neat for me as somebody who hates doing this in editing, because you have to crop everything and move everything around, and it really kind of sucks. I can swap based on predefined things what my face looks like. Now I look like this. Whoa, wow! It's really cool. I mean, come on, it's great. With a click of a button, I can just zoom in on my face, or I can do it like this, which looks a lot better, and how I will probably use it for the rest of the video. But for right now, let's just stay right here, okay? This is great. I love this. So this is something. If you read the title of the video, you probably already know. But there's something that Dad D received in his pull list recently, that wasn't quite a comic book, and we were all surprised by. We're all fans of The Last God. Here's a picture of it. Let's see if we can get a zoom in on this. This thing, The Last God, and it's a really interesting. It's a very interesting series. It's very cool. I'll say it this way. And for me, as an aspiring writer and a DM, I can very much appreciate their world. Their world feels very grimdark, Game of Thrones-esque. You have a race of humans which are essentially barbarians from Conan. You have Elven, which are either in the woods trying to be wild, or they're free and trying to save the third type, which are slaves. So Elven are either slaves, they're in the wild, or they're freedom fighters, basically. Up north are the Riverlands, which is where the Empire of Man came from. And I can't remember everything about it. I'm sure there's some more details about it. It's interesting. In this book, your typical dwarves are literally everything wrong with a dwarf. Every typical aspect in fantasy about dwarves, the writers here took those parts and only took the worst parts and made a race out of it called the Duero. And they're not good. They're very terrible people. But it's just an interesting world, and I have fallen in love with The Last God, because it accomplishes something that I think is rare to see in fantasy books, much less in comics. Very much less in comics. They have accomplished the creating a world that feels really deep. It feels really deep. They may not know everything about the world, but they have given me the impression that they know everything about the world. And that's what you want to do as a fantasy author. And it's exciting to see in a comic book to see, wow, this world, I can tell there's more to this world that is very unique. And see, here's the thing. I haven't gotten to the most unique thing about this comic. This comic has zombies. It's a fantasy grimdark world with plant zombies. It is quite literally plant zombies, where the undead are basically kind of captured by void magic, but the void magic infuses with the world very easily. Very easily. So animals just become void-corrupted versions of themselves. They are effectively plant zombies. The problem is, these creatures, and this includes humanoids of any kind, they are pretty much unstoppable. You can kill one, and it'll just come back within a couple days. No matter what you do, they keep coming and keep coming, and everyone they kill, it raises another zombie, because this virus is transmitted by touch. You touch a person, this plant virus is going with it. most of the time. It's a very it's very much it's more threatening than typical zombies because it's spread by touch alone. And it also has a lot of unique properties that are associated with like several various zombie types, where you have different types of zombie monsters with different kinds of escalation of threat and power. It's a very interesting world with very interesting mechanics that I'm enjoying, and I would highly recommend reading the comic series if you're into fantasy at all. Definitely read it. It's a very good read. And like this comic has this. It's not a comic. It's a source book. This source book has information that would be somewhat of a what's it called? Spoiler. There is information in here that we don't know in the comic books yet. Which, as a DM, you're familiar with, right? As a DM, you have to know stuff when you're running D&D games or any other type of RPG game, where you have to know stuff about how the world works that you haven't said to your players yet, right? For example, let's say you're running a campaign. You know there's a dragon in this campaign, and this dragon happens to be a good guy helping dedicate resources throughout the world to combat an evil empire's goals of conquering your land. The problem is, the only time it's in dragon form is when it's flying over the countryside, attacking various camps that people don't actually know belong to the bad guy. As a DM, you have to know that kind of stuff, but your players won't. This is the same thing with the source book. If you're gonna use this to run a D&D game, you're gonna know stuff that the comic book readers will not know. It's just part of the game, right? Part of the nature of the thing. And if you're interested in the world, I highly recommend reading this because it helps you understand why do things work, how the world is built. One of their artists shared a picture of the map on Twitter. And it's a very nice fantasy map, but kind of how the world works, the history of the world, each of the gods, what did they create, why are they gone, that kind of stuff. And what's I appreciate, and they've done fairly well, is they've given me the history of the world, and then left the ability for me to create stories in it on my own. This is not like this supplemental is not a campaign. You're not going to open this and say, here's a bunch of quests for you to do to run a bunch of players through a campaign. They didn't write that. That's on you to write. They have given you the information about how the world works. So if people are excited about the world, you can go and play in it. Which I appreciate. I love making my own campaigns. I really do. And this is where I'm gonna transition to something that I kind of want to talk about as far as campaigns. I would like to run a Westmarches campaign in the Last God world. Westmarches is a very special type of game, and I'll pull up some more info so we can just kind of show you. If you're interested, I would love suggestions of monsters that you think are cool. If you think a monster's cool, or a puzzle's cool, or a place is cool, let me know in the comments. Like, throw it out. And when we make a video on it, I'll include you and say, hey, look, this was suggested by this so-and-so in the comments. Let me know. Hit me up. And I will do my best to try to find ways where it may work, depending on the scenario. And the reason why I say that, and the reason Westmarches are so cool, and we'll get into some more info in just a second, but just from a broad level, Westmarches is a style of campaign where you say to your players, here's a bunch of rumors. Now, the players have to decide, what do we want to do? As a DM, that means I need to have a lot of ideas prepared but not fully fleshed out. There's no way I could fully flesh out every single detail about a Westmarches campaign and what will happen in it. I don't know. My players will decide what will happen in it, and we're probably going to record what will happen in it, which will be lots of fun. But, for example, just as an example, I set up, there's a monster in the logging camp, there's a monster in the old expansion, and there's a monster in the hunting grounds, right? There's 3 different locations. I then say, hey, my players, you've all heard about these rumors about the monster in the logging camp, and the monster in the hunting grounds, and the monster in the old expansion. You've all heard these things, and these are the kind of monsters you're hearing about. Which one do you want to go after? Or they can just say, none of those sound like a lot of fun. We're pretty sure this monster is a minotaur. We don't want to fight that. So we're just going to go walk in a direction. That's what's fun about a Westmarches, for me as a DM. The players get to have their own sandbox and set their own goals. And that's something you need. Like, if you're going to run one, you need to communicate, hey, look, this is a Westmarches. You set your own goals. This is a lot like Minecraft in that way, if that makes sense. You set your own goals. Are you a kind of player who likes to build stuff? Then build stuff. Make that your goal. Are you the kind of player who likes to fight dragons? Make that your goal. But you can't play Minecraft and say, I don't know what to do, and then not do anything or struggle to do anything because you don't know what to do. And if the game doesn't tell you, hey, look, you have a bunch of freedom of choice here, you're going to be lost. It's just the nature of the thing. And that's how it works with Westmarches. If you're going to run it, you need to tell your players, this is what's going to happen. You need to decide what you want to do as a group. And then I'll play that, right? So that's what's cool about Westmarches, is that they get to choose their own story and play in a sandbox, and it's my job to help with that and come up with very crazy ideas. But for me, that's what's cool, is I'm not limited in Westmarches style campaigns to just picking monsters that are suitable for their level. If you make sure your players know, hey, look, this could be a monster too strong for you, and let them know at the outset before they ever play that some monsters may be too strong, and they know that, that's great. Because it means I get to play with a bunch of different types of monsters. I get to play with a bunch of different types of locations, right? That's another feature of the Westmarches, where you can just say, you know what, I really want an abandoned magical city somewhere. Well, you can throw it in. You're not stuck. You're not limited. As a DM, you can come up with crazy and interesting stuff. If you're in the middle of the jungle, and you want to use an abominable Yeti, right? And you just think that monster's cool, well, then you can have a location that is quite literally like a snow globe, just out in the middle of the jungle. And your players find it, and it's a snow globe. What's it doing there? They don't know. You might know. And so that's fun. You get to play around with a bunch of stuff. And I say that because I want to be able to use input from different people to say, yeah, this is a monster I think sounds cool, and I kind of want to see it used, right? And I get to just throw a bunch of stuff in there and see what they're interested in and what they go after, and that's always fun. Because, and this is another major aspect of Westmarches, is this all works because Westmarches campaigns are set on the edge of civilization. The very edge of civilization. And what's great about that is what's beyond civilization, right? If you're in ancient Rome, hey, civilization is around the Mediterranean, right? What's beyond that? There's a lot of stuff beyond it. Do you dare go beyond it and find out what's out there? And it could be crazy stuff. A bunch of people talked about all these crazy things that were beyond civilization, and all the wilds and wilderness. Well, what's beyond it? Go. And so Westmarches are set on the edge of civilization, and it's up to the players to go out of civilization into the wilderness and find these crazy things that are out there. And so something that's prompted me to make this, and I know this is a long intro, bear with me, okay? I'll probably put that at the front just so it's easier to I'll have to do it in editing. But What prompted me to make this world is here. Let's zoom in on my face real quick. Hi. This right here. Now you can't see it well, and you definitely can't read it. But the writers of this book did something I think is really cool. When writing the history, they have a whole section of the map west of the Riverlands. The paragraph is there's a single city, and I'm condensing it. There's a single city on an edge of a wilderness that nobody can ever conquer, right? This city has tried many, many, many times over the centuries. It's one of the oldest cities. It has tried over and over again to expand out through the forest, and it never can. Every single time something strange happens. I love that. That is a writer who like a group of writers who says, we don't know what's in there. And for a supplemental, that's really cool because it says, hey, look, we as writers don't know what's in this forest. That's up to you as a DM to say, this is what's in the forest. And that's great for a Westmarches campaign. I love that. It's perfectly suited for what I've been talking about Westmarches, where it's a single city on the edge of civilization. And past it is a bunch of wilderness that nobody's ever been able to conquer. Nobody knows what's really in there. There's one location that they describe, and it's called the Land of the Unmen. It's basically a Roanoke colony. One person, like a group of explorers, went out to this place, saw a bunch of huts on the beach, and one person made it back. Only one. And this one person was insane, describing monsters with tails and fangs like demons. With scales, excuse me. The Land of the Unmen. What's really there? The players don't know. I don't know, but I get to find out what's there because I get to write it. And so it's a really cool setup for the Westmarches. And so I just kind of wanted to cap off this video. An introduction to Westmarches, kind of like a hint of the video I will be making. And the series of videos where we'll be playing a Westmarches campaign. I really wanted to cap it off with kind of a reiteration of what a Westmarches campaign is. And very much a call if you guys want to be part of this RPG we'll be doing. Send me some crazy ideas you guys have, and I'll see if I can make it work. And if the players will even want to do it. Now, I know you can't really read it well on here. I get that. I will put this site link in the description. But when it comes to Westmarches, there's pretty much three things. One, there's no regular time. Basically, when the players want to play and the DM's available, that's when you play, right? It's very much, it takes the job of scheduling out of the DM's hands, which I appreciate. I don't like to schedule games. Just tell me, hey, look, we want to play this time. Are you open? That I can do. Another great thing is there's no regular party. It's not a campaign where you have a group where you have your Bill where you have Samwise and Frodo and Gandalf who have to play every single week, right? If Gandalf's player needs to leave for a week, well, now you lost one of your players. That kind of sucks. No, that's not how this game works. Westmarches style campaigns, there's no regular party. You can have many different players who like, hey, sometimes these 5 players are the only 5 players available right now, and they want to play. Tomorrow, another 3 players can get together and say, are you available? It doesn't matter. Different players can play at different times. Not only that, but they can play different characters. So if one game you really want to play your sorcerer, but the next game you kind of feeling like just hidden things, and you play a barbarian, that you're free to do that. You can. The third thing that's very foundational, there's no plot, right? Your campaign does not have a track. There's a bunch of stuff, and it's up to the players to go and find it out. It's a sandbox. As Ben, who kind of came up with the idea for it, says, there is no mysterious old man sending them on quests to go do things. Just an environment for the players to explore. And a lot of this is a very much a it's very much like a reaction to a bunch of problems games typically have, right? One, a typical campaign will have a problem where the players are just following the tracks, and that's all they're doing. It's very easy for the DM to know what's going to happen, but the players are just following the tracks, following the story, and then they're done. Not always fun. Another thing is, it makes it really easy for a bunch of adults to get together and make their own games because they all have lives and different things. If you set a rigid thing for every, let's say, Tuesday, right? Well, some people won't be able to make it on Tuesdays. It just won't happen. If the players work together to find a good time and that works with your schedule, then that's great. You don't have to do it. And the other thing that it really challenges is us as a DM, it challenges you to say, hey, look, you can't just have everything in the world ready. The players will surprise you with what they want to do. They may want to go follow this rumor that you had no expectation they'd want to follow, and now you're doing it. And it's up to you have very good notes already in place. And not only that, but be able to improvise a scenario where, you know what, you may not know exactly what's going to happen here, but you have some good ideas of what can happen here. And so it very much creates that you need to be able to improvise scenarios. And like Ben says here, it's gaming on demand. Your players let you know what they want to do. You have to deliver that content before the deadline. Which, if you're a type of worker, and this is very common for work, right? You have two types of workers. You have the type of worker who has no deadline, and they really need a deadline. If they don't get a deadline, well, then they're just going to lax about it and never get the project done. But if they have a deadline, they're going to work hard to finish it by the deadline. The other type of worker is somebody who doesn't want a deadline and they can just work well on their own. Two different types of workers, right? Some again, basic information about Westmarches. Frontier region on civilization. Again, that's kind of what I said. Fortified town, bunch of trade and stuff, civilization, but nothing past that is civilized. And that's pretty much about that. The territory on your end has to be very detailed information. You have to know what area is what. If a players decide to go north, you need to be ready to know what can be north. And so a good recommendation, like if you ever run one, is to have a bunch of stuff prepared that you can place anywhere, right? You just have a bunch of scenarios prepared where they can fit in any position. It's a magical puzzle piece. Other things you will need to have rumors that says, man, we keep hearing rumors that the Hull of Kings are in the Cradle Wood, right? As Ben says. Hey, set out rumors and give them the rumors, but if they choose not to follow it, you need to be ready for that scenario and just have an idea in place. And again, the players get to choose where they want to go, but everything can be dangerous. It's like WoW, right? If you ever played WoW back in the day where it was really dangerous, right? And you were a level 10. You were a level 10 and just coming out of Elwyn Forest, and instead of going to Elwyn Forest, from there to like the Red Ridge Mountains, or the zone that's completely filled with farming, and I can't remember its name, Westfall. Instead of going to Westfall like you should, you decided to swim across the lake and go to Stranglethorn Valley. If you ever have done that, you have a problem on your hand because everything there can kill you. Same thing with Westmarches. Sometimes a place you go is too dangerous for you, right? As Ben says here, the environment's dangerous, very dangerous. That's intentional, because as the Great Mud Nexus, I've never played it, I can't tell you if it's great. Danger unites. PCs have to work together or they're going to get creamed. They have to think and pick their battles. Since they can go anywhere, there is nothing stopping them from strolling into areas that will wipe them out. If they just strap on their swords and charge everything that they see, they will be making new characters. Players have to learn how to observe their environment and adapt. When they find owlbell tracks, they give the area a wide berth until they gain some levels. Which is, again, another feature about Westmarches that happens, is you'll have players who see something and they know that's too dangerous for me right now. When they get back to town, it becomes a rumor, right? And so that becomes a rumor for another player to hear, oh, there's some on-kegs in the cave nearby? I didn't know that. Let's go fight some on-kegs. So your players are making their own quests at that point, which is really awesome. Just to continue, when they stumble into a layer of a terrifying Hydra, they have to retreat and round up a huge group to hunt it down. The PCs are weak, but they are central. They are small fish in a dangerous world that they have to explore with caution, because they're the only adventurers that never play second fiddle. There's no big magic wizard protecting them. Lots of looming peaks and forbidding forests, yeah, but other characters, no. And that's fun. It's not every campaign is going to be a Westmarches. It just won't. But it's a style of play that's very fun. It's a sandbox that is very dangerous. It's a crapshoot. So yeah, leave me some comments. Thank you if you're still here sticking around. I know it's a very long intro. I'm going to be making more videos creating scenarios that may happen, they may not. I don't know. Just for fun, right? And I'll probably make some videos about making characters of the city. We'll see. It's a very dangerous world to begin with. The Last God has so many deadly things in it. And then you're giving them a place that's meant to be extra dangerous. It's going to be great. Lots of people are going to die, I suspect. And it's a very specialized form of game. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Leave a like. Send me your favorite monster or scenario or puzzle, something like that. Do not send me the Tomb of Horrors. I'm good. No thank you. I don't want to have to rework that. And I will do my best to try to work it in somehow, incorporate it, and give you a shout out when we record it. So thanks. I'll see you next time in the long box.